Hi, I'm E.D. Lewis, and welcome back to my channel, E.D. Lewis Reviews, and it's time for part 2 of the Dracula Reviews. So last time we, did the book Dracula, which I have before me, right here. And now it is time to continue the Dracula Reviews with a short story entitled Dracula's Guest. And this is from the book Vampires Encounters with the Undead, edited and with commentary by David J. Scull. And I know I've had this book on before, and I had to say, I really love that cover. That's from the original British edition, which I would just say the original edition of the book Dracula's Guest and other weird stories. And you may be thinking, Dracula's Guest? Is it a sequel? No, it is not a sequel. It has a bit of a strange history. You know, I should have grabbed 2 other books, but that's fine. Well, one, because it kind of connects with something else, a book that I started, and 2... Well, never mind about that. We'll get to that in a moment. So, Dracula's Guest by Bram Stoker. It is gothic horror. It's lesser known than, of course, the original novel Dracula. It was published in 1914, which was 2 years after Bram Stoker's death in 1912. It was published by Florence Stoker, Bram Stoker's widow. And she kind of published it as, she added it to his selection that I guess he was, you know, from what I understand anyway, he must have been preparing a short story book, you know, an anthology, or a collection of short stories, and she decided to add this kind of as a fan service in a way, since at that time, many people had considered Dracula to be his finest work. He, from what I understand, did not, but, you know, he did try to launch it, you know, in plays and stuff. And so she kind of did this as a fan service, thinking that, you know, fans of the original book might find it interesting. And it is an interesting story. I'll talk a little bit more about it just in a moment, but here let's kind of talk about what the story's about. So the story starts off as the narrator, unnamed, but we can assume it was probably Jonathan Harker, you know, the character who we meet at the start of the novel Dracula. He's visiting Munich on his way to Transylvania. We assume, of course, that he is, you know, on his way to conduct the business with Count Dracula in the Carpathian Mountains. He arrives in Munich on Walpurgis night. I'm only guessing I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is another one of those nights of evil. So, and you know, I'm a little uncertain about something here. Really quick. Let's pull the page open. Okay. Well, you know, because Jonathan Harker does mention Munich in the book. You know, I should have waited till later in this review for this. On May 1st, and the ending of April, the beginning of May is when, I guess, when the Walpurgis night, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, goes on, and so then I guess that kind of matches up a little bit here. So it's another night of evil, and he wanders out to an abandoned village and is left behind by his carriage, whose driver becomes frightened and takes off. So the narrator, we're just gonna keep calling him that, you know, becomes lost in the snow and in a snowstorm, finds himself in an old cemetery. He comes upon a tomb made of marble with an iron stake sticking out the top of it. He is forced by Hale to seek refuge inside the tomb and discovers a mysterious woman sleeping inside. Now, that's about, you know, half the story right there, with, you know, a lot of details dropped, you know, just to get you kind of, you know, to whet your, I don't know if wet your whistle is the right term here, to, at least get you interested in the story. It's kind of a bit of a teaser there that I wrote there. But the reason why I should have waited to look in the book in Dracula and bring this point up is because the history of this is, like I said, it's a bit of a mystery. What was this intended to be? It has been suggested this was meant to be the first chapter, the original first chapter of Dracula. Because there's some information about what's on the first page of Dracula, that the first page in like one of the older manuscripts, or one of the original manuscripts, is the one that went to publication or something like that. I'm a little confused on that part. So I don't know if it's one that was the official one sent to the publisher or what, but I guess the page number is crossed out and it's made number 1, so it's like 100 and some pages I think that are missing. And so this is believed to be the very beginning of the story. So we can assume this is Jonathan Harker, and supposedly there are some deleted moments from the story that kind of reference back to this. There's of course, that picture from the cover. Sorry, that was my spiral on my notebook. Getting caught on this book, because I have them in close proximity. This is actually a scene depicted in the story later on, and I can't tell you much about that. And that is referenced in the book. Supposedly referenced in the book. It was deleted. Also, the trip to Munich is only mentioned in the start of the book because, hey, I can read you the very first part of the book Dracula. Chapter 1, Jonathan Harker's journal, kept in shorthand. 3, May. Bistritz, I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced, left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st May, arriving in Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. And then he goes on into Budapest. So, with the dates and stuff of the St. George's Eve or St. George's Night, which is the time of evil in the book for the area that he arrives in, and this, special night here, that's another Saint's Eve, being another time of evil in a different part of Europe, it seems kind of redundant that you have these two different nights of evil mentioned. And another bit of information here suggests that this is the deleted first chapter, the original first chapter, maybe of an earlier draft, and that the publisher deemed it, unnecessary, or even maybe that Bram Stoker thought it was. I've heard more information pertaining that it was the publisher. And this is talked a little bit about in one of the books I started reading right before Halfoween-a-thon. It was earlier in the week, and I kind of stopped on it because I knew Halfoween-a-thon was coming up, so I wanted to jumpstart my first read for Halfoween-a-thon, which is another Dracula book. The book in question is Dracula by Dacre Stoker, and is it J.M. Barker? I think that's who it is. I should have grabbed it for the video. It has a section at the back of the book that has information on it. I've read bits of it when I first bought the book, almost a year ago. And it's the missing 105 pages or so that book's actually inspired off of. And part of, that missing bit is Dracula's guest. So, who knows? And when I get further in that book, I can link it back here and talk more about this. But until I get to that point, which may be a while yet because I do have some other Dracula readings before I even get to that review anyhow, we'll see what happens with it, so. But, it is an interesting piece of literature, and like I said, Bram Stoker's widow, I guess, put it in as she thought it might be interesting to fans of Dracula. So, but anyway, that is Dracula Part 2, Dracula's Guest. I will continue this with another video. It might be my Halfoween-a-thon read, well, one of them, because I have 2 Dracula reads for that, which is the Bram Stoker's Dracula by Saberhagen and Hart. based off of the script Bram Stoker's Dracula, which we're going to refer to as Coppola's Dracula, by the way, instead of calling it Bram Stoker's Dracula. I do have some reasoning for saying that, excuse me, but we will get to that in a future video. And I'm also reading the Dracula graphic novel that I mentioned, that I showed last time. And of course, I started the book Dracula, but it's been a while before I get to that review. That'll be a later review. So anyway, but that is Dracula's Guest by Bram Stoker. I'll show you one more time. I'll show you the front of this book too, by the way. Published in 1914. And here's the front of this book. I don't know if I have it in another book or not, but I mean, this book I've shown a couple times. If you saw my Carmilla by Sheridan LaFanu review, and you also saw my The Vampyre, A Tale by John Polidori, I used this one in both those. So, but that is Dracula, the Dracula Reviews Part 2, Dracula's Guest, and I will see you on a future video with more Dracula to come. So do stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time right here on Idealist Reviews for, maybe another nocturnal review. See you then. Bye-bye.